Are you looking to expand your aesthetic practice and attract high-quality new patients? Discover the power of digital marketing in growing your practice with a personalized strategy session. Join Ryan Davies, Equa's marketing director, for an exclusive 90-minute meeting. Ryan and his team will invest hours prior to your session crafting a customized marketing plan tailored specifically for your practice. This invaluable opportunity comes at no cost to you, with no commitments attached. Schedule your meeting with Ryan today by visiting www.businessofesthetics.org/MSM and take the first step towards transforming your practice with the potential of digital marketing.
You're invited to join our exclusive monthly webinar brought to you by the Business of Aesthetics community. Don't let this chance slip through your fingers. Secure your spot now for a game-changing experience. Explore the details on our homepage at www.businessofesthetics.org and get set to transform your strategies.
You are listening to another episode of the Business of Aesthetic podcast series brought to you by our gold sponsor, Equa Marketing. If you would like to network and share your experience with our podcast guests and other aesthetic industry professionals, join our Facebook or LinkedIn communities by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Prepare to be inspired as we introduce Ryan Davies, an esteemed professional and seasoned digital marketing advisor at Equa.com, renowned for his expertise in sales and marketing psychology. Ryan possesses a wealth of experience collaborating with companies and political campaigns. He profoundly understands the intricacies of consumer behavior and how it influences purchasing decisions. As a certified Sandler sales and challenger expert, he brings a unique perspective, employing innovative sales techniques that drive tangible results. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Welcome to another captivating installment of the Business of Aesthetics podcast. I'm Ryan Davies, your co-founder and co-host at the heart of the Business of Aesthetics community and podcast. Before we immerse ourselves in the riches of today's episode, I want to express our profound gratitude to all of you, our listeners from across the United States and around the globe. Your willingness to embrace and share this podcast and your invaluable insights and experiences have collectively transformed our community into a thriving epicenter of wisdom and innovation. Your unwavering dedication is the cornerstone of our success, and we can't thank you enough. Today, we've got an incredible episode that we're going to dive right into. Our topic is Expertise Matters, Navigating the Rise of Unqualified Practitioners. And we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Larry Green, joining us today to be able to speak to this. Dr. Green, thank you so much for joining me here today and covering such an important topic in the industry.
Thanks, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be back on the on your podcast, The Business of Aesthetics.
Very, very excited to have you here. For those who need a reintroduction to Dr. Green, he's a renowned dermatologist and has been recognized for his expertise and contributions to the field of dermatology, with accolades including multiple appearances in Washingtonian Magazine's list of top dermatologists and a selection as super doctor in the Washington, D.C. area. His reputation extends nationally. His inclusion in esteemed directories such as Castle Colony's Top Doctors Directory and the Global Directory of the World Health Organization further solidifies his standing as a leading dermatologist in Washington, D.C. And we are so happy to have him here to be able to guide us through a very, I'm going to say, extremely important, almost very sensitive topic around, again, that expertise matters and that we need to have, how do you identify qualified practitioners, the importance of it, everything else. To kind of dive into it, maybe you can sort of color up for our audience here some of the insights into the current landscape of dermatology and aesthetics that you're seeing, particularly with that rise of individuals without proper training delivering treatments and procedures for patients.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, it's such a topical topic when just this week the CDC announced that there were, I think, 19 or even more than 19 cases of botulinum poisoning from people who in med spas or in home parties giving what they called Botox to people, and they became sick with botulinum poisoning. And this just is the tip of the iceberg is what can happen when you go to someone who is not licensed and or not properly trained to do something as simple as Botox. Botox is not simple. People think it's simple. You don't have to go to a physician or a qualified individual, and nothing. It is a medical treatment, and you have to be a licensed practitioner in order to give Botox. You can't receive it without, and it just shows what the type of things are happening where people are giving botulinum, whatever, not from the manufacturer, that it's compounded illegally, and giving it to people, and people are getting sick with botulinum poisoning. And it just shows, again, why it is so important to go to a qualified individual, because it is a medical procedure.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, this is the tip of the iceberg. Maybe, tell us a little bit about your background, like your own journey and your expertise in dermatology and aesthetics, and really kind of what's inspired you around this topic to be such an advocate for it and make sure that, again, the public has awareness and that your patients are aware of, the risks and possibly complications that are in place.
Yeah, so this started for me probably 15 years ago, when Botox, and I should say botulinum toxin, because there's lots of other botulinum toxins besides the brand name Botox out there that are legal and approved by the FDA that we can use as well. But this started when people doing that and laser hair removal and wrinkle fillers. In my home state of Maryland, I'm in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., as you mentioned, were coming to me with complications from unqualified people giving them botulinum toxin lasers or wrinkle filler to start with, sometimes even chemical peels. And I addressed this to my state medical society and as well as my national dermatology organizations, and found that Maryland had no regulations or laws about who can give this, and even though you think you have to be a physician to order it, but people get it other ways, or they get, like we just mentioned, the compounded botulinum toxin, which is completely illegal. It's like, getting something that the FDA hasn't approved instead of from a pharmacy. Your doctor not getting it from a pharmacy, you're getting it from someplace who knows where in Mexico, and made in an unlicensed, unqualified facility. So it was a real issue. So I worked with my state medical societies and as my national dermatology organizations, and we worked with the Board of Physicians in Maryland to create regulations for the safety of our people. I was seeing people in my home state who were suffering from not having qualified people and physicians giving them this aesthetic dermatology material. And it took several years, but we ended up creating regulations in my home state in Maryland where you had to be a qualified physician or healthcare practitioner to be able to give these materials. So in my state, for example, you must be a dermatologist, plastic surgeon, or a physician that has received continuing medical education. If you're not, and especially where the training is part of your education, dermatology and plastic surgery, the treatment of botulinum toxin and fillers and lasers, it's part of my education and training. Every resident is tested in it. It has to, be shown to be qualified and an expert in it before they graduate from residency. And then we also have continuing education through the years. As things change, I have to adapt, and I have to take recertification and get tested on this all the time. So I'm constantly updating. I must qualify and re-qualify through testing organizations on this type of material. And same thing with plastic surgery. So if you're, say, another type of physician where this is not part of your residency training and re-qualification, well, you've got to take the continuing medical education and prove. And if you can't prove it, you're not licensed and qualified in the state of Maryland to use this. So you have to be that in the state of Maryland now. And I can legally delegate in my office if I've seen a patient first, a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant who I've trained and to give these. That's also legal in the state, but I must be on site. I can't be somewhere available by phone. It must be on site. And those are the regulations that we created for these types of procedures. And in Maryland, it's worked. We have a great patient safety profile in terms of this since this happened, that we don't have as much. I see people coming from neighboring states that don't have the regulations that Maryland have, who do, unfortunately, still develop complications from botulinum toxin injections or wrinkle fillers or lasers. So it does seem to work in our state, and it's unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, the practice of medicine is regulated by the state, so it depends on the state you practice as to who constitutes a practitioner that can do this. But even despite this, so I'll tell you, Ryan, there are still plenty of things that happen in my home state where people do illegal things. There are Botox parties. Botox is a medical procedure. Botulinum toxin, I should say, is a medical procedure. It's not a party. You just got to be done in the medical office, and you got to make sure patient safety is first and everything is done. It's not something as simple as tying your shoes. It is a medical procedure where complications can happen, like we saw this past week where people develop botulinum poisoning. So don't take it lightly. It's a fantastic thing. It's an easy thing, but make sure it's done correctly by the properly educated person.
Do you find that maybe part of the issue was just like a lot of things that you see in tech, like AI, for instance, or in anything else, there was such a rapid rise and adoption of this that, almost like regulation and things to that effect, legislation couldn't keep up to just the popularity of it and the ease of, I guess, access to it or the ability to deliver it, that's been an issue? Or do you see that that's kind of starting to come around now? And I know, like you mentioned, you speak to your own state mostly, but like there's so many new lasers, like almost every week, there's some new technology out there that changes the way things are done or pushes the envelope. Do you find that that's part of the issue? And how do you combat that and show trust in that sense?
Well, that is part of the issue because, especially with lasers, I find that the laser salesman will take their laser to any practitioner, regardless of qualifications, and try and convince them to purchase it. And once you purchase it, you're on your own. But despite what they say, how they'll help you out, so they'll take it to anyone, and that is part of the problem. Even unqualified people, in order to get a sale. And I wish that some of these salesmen had, looked at laws of the states where they're selling the lasers, but I don't think they do. I honestly have no idea, but it doesn't seem that way.
Yeah.
So that's anecdotal and hearsay. But I see a lot of unqualified people doing lasers. And in my office, for example, I don't use many lasers. I don't use lasers at all because I don't feel qualified. And I'm a dermatologist where I have to pass laser certification and training. I'm tested on it all the time. The person in my office who does the lasers is a dermatologist who did a 2-year laser fellowship after dermatology residency. And she goes to special laser meetings all the time, and she takes special testing all the time to keep up. I wouldn't want anyone to do lasers on me who just took a weekend course from a laser salesman, which that would be illegal in my state, but there's plenty of states where that's allowed, and starts doing laser compared to someone who did a 2-year laser fellowship after 3 years of dermatology training, after 4 years of medical school, and continues to update that with education all the time. It's, people think it's just a little magic beam that is so simple to use. It's not. I've seen scarring, burns, disfigurement, skin pigmentation disappearing from unqualified people using lasers that you think are so simple. So it's a medical procedure, and people keep forgetting it. It's a medical procedure. It's not a party. And it's important to have the training in the years, not weekend, to do these procedures.
Totally makes sense, right? And it's just building up that train, like you said, over time, and making sure you are, you're confident in delivering, but you've had a very beyond adequate amount of training, and when you've hit that level, then you can move to that next stage. With that, I mean, with this growing concern that's happening, and like you said, it's out there, a lot of aesthetics, a lot of cosmetic dermatology, even from that standpoint, is becoming almost commoditized, right? Like it's like you said, like anybody can kind of get into it, and people are grabbing onto it, and people are, pushing the envelope as to what they're doing. How do you ensure that your patients feel confident in your trust and your expertise for the treatments that you offer? How are you able to display that and convey that to them?
So the people who come to our office, that's definitely displayed and conveyed. The people visit our website and our social media. We're one voice in the millions and millions of voices out there. But if you are credentialed, it's very important to display your credentials, and you should be proud of it. I'm proud. I'm a board certified dermatologist that just it gets recertified and includes questions on giving botulinum toxin and wrinkle fillers and lasers in my recertification. So I have to keep up. It's not just what I learned as a resident, over 25 years ago. That's important, and we are proud to promote that on our website. The question is, will people look at it? And I think they should be aware. People don't think of cosmetic dermatology anymore, and I'm using that term because the term, unfortunately, has become not a medical field. It used to be that dermatologists were physicians. Well, now people who practice dermatology are not necessarily physicians, and it's a shame. I mean, brain surgeons neurosurgeons are usually still physicians. That could change too. I don't know what happened to our specialty, and I think we have to get the word out that cosmetic dermatology, you should be seeing a board-certified dermatologist. That's what it means. Cosmetic dermatology is not a field for high schoolers or someone who took a weekend training course or something like that.
Yeah.
MD, after the name. And it's important to look for that in the credentials when you're trying to go to someone who's practicing cosmetic dermatology. So yes, we display it. I have social media, my Instagram, at dr.Lawrence Green. I always talk about the importance of seeing a board-certified dermatologist and trying to show how important that, our credentials and our training are compared to what's out there. And my national organizations, including the American Society of Dermatologic Surgery and the American Academy of Dermatology, do the same thing all the time. The social media reach and the advertising is huge. It's a big part of what we do. But again, we're small. The world is so huge, and people offering skincare advice are so huge. Unfortunately, it's hard to fight up against that, and I shouldn't say fight, but it's hard to make a dent in it because we're a drop in the bucket, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. So, with that in mind, let's talk about collaboration within the industry and advocacy for this issue. Do you believe, or do you see a way for greater collaboration within the community of dermatology and even aesthetics to address these issues related to the rise of unqualified practitioners? And if so, what initiatives, actions do you recommend that the community can take?
So I recommend everyone who's a practitioner, whether you're a dermatologist, plastic surgeon, a nurse practitioner who's an aesthetic injector who has done a lot of work and is qualified and continues to do work, display their credentials, show the patients, prove to the patients how important it is in your social media, in your outreach. Follow what we're doing, what my national organizations are doing, what the dermatologists like me are doing in promoting patient safety. Because the bottom line is we're not trying to monopolize aesthetic dermatology. We're trying to make sure everyone gets it safely and in the right place and time. It's not, I want to emphasize, it's not so simple. And it may seem simple, but it's not. And people can get hurt, and you can have sometimes even fatal reactions. So don't take it lightly. It's not brain surgery, but it's still a medical procedure that bad things can happen, and you don't want to take that chance. This is your health. And that's the idea. And I'd like to see other people who are qualified and continue to recertify like we do, join us and spread more of the word about the importance of seeing a qualified professional, qualified practitioner.
So how are you able to bring that in, without, you don't want to seem like you're fear-mongering and everything, but it's so critically important. How are you able to bring that in during the consultation process for individuals considering treatments? How do you give them the advice to sort of make those informed decisions and avoid potential risks? And even before, as you mentioned, your social media, your website, great. That's your introduction to you before you're ever introduced to them, right? So how are you able to, what advice do you have that you give your potential and current patients to around this without making it sound, all doom and gloom, just sort of, again, showcasing that?
Yeah, it's not doom and gloom at all. It's just going to the right person to make sure it's done well, and it is simple when it's done well, so, and safely. But it's unfortunate way that when they're coming to see me or they're looking at my website or my social media, most of these people, we're preaching to the choir. It's the ones we can't reach that are the issues. And that's why I think it's so important that we get a wider reach and a wider spread of people joining us and promoting their credentials and their qualifications to do aesthetic dermatology or cosmetic dermatology. Even if you're not a board certified dermatologist, be proud of your credentials, showcase it. Because if you're really qualified, you want to showcase it, be proud of it, show what you have and show what you've done. So I think that's so important because that's how we drown out the Botox party idea, that this is something simple to do. I mean, even I had a cousin's kid a few months ago come to me or email me and said, you know what, she's lives far away from me, and says, when we're going to meet at a family event, can you just come over to where we're staying and give me some Botox? And I said, no, that's not the place. I wish I could. I want to help you. but it's not what's done. Even though I'm a qualified person would not do that. That's not, even its family. I love my family, but I don't want to do anything that could potentially put them in harm's way, no matter what. And the most important, and it's not fear mongering. It's just safety.
Yes.
Why take a chance? There's no reason to take a chance.
Absolutely. No, it totally makes sense. And when we're talking about, again, you've fought and done so much in terms of regulation and oversight and ensuring safety for patients and the public that are out there in your state. But as you mentioned, this changes from state to state, from country to country, all of that. What steps can be taken from both that sort of individual practice owner side as well as an industry level to sort of ensure that the quality assurance and standards are upkept, and they can advocate to their boards? Like, how did you, again, you've done this for a number of years, but what recommendations would you have for people going, boy, I want to make sure that I'm really doing all that I can to help do this as well and raise awareness, and again, be proud of all of the training I put forward to be able to deliver services?
So it's all about building a coalition. That's how things get done. You're not going to do it yourself, and you have to make some effort and put some time and energy into it. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen. I would say don't assume it's going to happen without your input. If you put your head in the sand, it's going to stay in the sand, and it's a shame it'll be in the sand. Make an effort and build a coalition and find out first find out what the regulations or laws are in your state, but then build a coalition. Go to your national organization, like I did. Go to your state's society to work with, because they have professional lobbyists that can help you and help guide you and really work with the lobbyists. It's not me who made the change. It's not Larry Green. Larry Green brings the idea and works with a coalition of like-minded people to show how important patient safety is and how things can go bad if patient safety is not upheld. And we want to make it a safer place for everybody. It sounds so simple, but it's a coalition, and that's what state legislatures like to have, because they don't want to see opposition. They want to see everyone together, because that means your constituents, the voting public is going to be for it. And that's how you do it. You build a coalition. Just this past legislative session, the past month or two, there was a bill put in by a medical spa that's not working in Maryland, that wants to do business in Maryland, because their model is not legal in our state, the way they do things. And we talked with them, and they eventually pulled the bill from consideration, because they said, well, let's work together. Even though, you know what they do is not legal in Maryland, doesn't mean we can't come up with a compromise and work together and create something that'll be work for everybody and bring together. So again, even if it's the opposition, we don't want opposition. We want to build it together. We want everyone to be happy. The bottom line is patient safety. That's what's most important. And whatever it takes to get there is, in the end, is what matters.
Alignment and unity towards public safety and a common goal. That sounds so foreign these days, but I mean, like you said, that is exactly what it comes down to, is making sure you're not seeing everybody as opposition. It's, ensuring that what's our end goal here and what are we looking to achieve for the industry and for the public and everything along those lines. I want to touch base again, just kind of looping back a little bit as we're kind of wrapping up here, because, I'm really big into marketing and ethical influence, right? Making sure you're being very clear and not trying to mislead or anything from that standpoint. You were talking about, again, you showcase it on social media, you showcase it on your website. What kind of specifics do you put into place? Like, when I'm recommending this to people, it's, don't use stock photos, use your own before and after photos, put your credentials up there, showcase your authority, speak to it very well and clearly, experience. But what sort of steps do you take as well? Because I'd love to get your, even from a selfish standpoint, what's successful for you and how you're able to kind of communicate this so well and so clearly.
Well, it starts with showcasing your credentials. I think that's the most important thing. And not just saying I'm a board certified dermatologist. What does it mean to be a board certified dermatologist? What type of training and education do you do? We talked about what I've done, how I have to be recertified. And this is not just me. This is every board certified dermatologist in the United States if they want to stay practicing. So showcase that all over the website. You mentioned some of the accolades. Showcase those as well that I've had over the time. Showcase those as well on your website and mention on social media. But also, you mentioned before and afters, that's also good. But before and afters can only go so far. To be an authority, you have to have the background to be that authority. showcasing before and afters is not enough. And that's where credentialing comes in. And it's got to be constant, unfortunately, Ryan, because social media is an instant and it's gone.
Yeah.
And when I go and some of my, I can't think of the right word, when I concentrate on in my social media is I go to pharmacies and I talk about products, and as a board certified dermatologist, what type of product would I recommend for this condition, for that condition, what do we have over the counter for people to use. But that brings to my background in education and training. I'm not going to be able to do that if I don't have the education training to do recommendations. So showcase your expertise. Not just, there's much more to do than before and afters, and back it up. That's my suggestion.
I like that. Yeah. And I always say too, it's always great to have a testimonial from another medical professional or something like that, right? Like really build authority and community and things like that, and be able to speak to all of those great things that you're doing. And as you said, like all of that training and retraining and certification, I mean, that is blood, sweat, and tears for you for it to get done. Don't let it go unnoticed, and keep it up to date. I like that point as well. You don't want to say, hey, I won this accolade, or I did this training in 2016 and I come in 2024. And it's like, yeah, but have you done anything since? Like there's almost a weird, you get that kind of stigma behind it, right? So I love all of those calls. I think they're so incredibly important. And again, that really just helps build that trust. And again, that community, when you see other people that have that, you understand that, hey, this is the expectation. This is what I should be looking for in a practitioner. As we kind of wrap up here, Dr. Green, I'd love to kind of, do the crystal ball thing and look ahead. This field, again, continuing to evolve. We talked about new technologies and new techniques and things that are coming at ever increasing rates. What do you see the future of dermatology and aesthetics delivery look like? And how can industry professionals work together to continue to promote excellence and patient safety?
So I'm going to give a hopeful vision for the future, because to me, it's all about unity, and it's not just us board certified dermatologists delivering high quality care from our credentials. It's other types of practitioners who also can deliver high quality care, whether it's on the direction of a board certified dermatologist in their office or in their state if it's legal for them to practice independently. But make sure they showcase their credentials, and we all work together for patient safety. And as new things come out, that we don't jump on them and say, and that's part of the problem with new things. We didn't bring this up, is that a lot of people who aren't qualified jump on them as they think this is their ticket to fame and all that. And there's not much science behind these things. That's the importance of seeing a credentialed person. They'll know when the science is lacking. So if there's something, a new technique or laser or device out there, and I'm not jumping on it or talking about it, well, it may not be the best thing to jump on for yourself. And then the person who is talking about it probably spent a lot of money buying it and has to get people to use it. But that's not patient safety. So to me, it's all about unity. So I'll go back to that, and everyone working together just for patient safety and minimalizing these people who jump on things which may not necessarily be the best, and even worse, compounding botulinum toxin from who knows where they're getting their source and potentially harming patients. You would never see that from a board certified dermatologist or a practitioner who has the credentials and training and wants to really help people, not harm people.
I know, again, I said we were wrapping up, and I got you led into a great question there with this, and you kind of touched on it before as well with, people invest in these big technologies or things like that, and I got to make it back, or I got to jump on this, or I've got to take advantage of a situation. I know one of my previous guests that I interviewed, his commentary was kind of going back to our comment before, never buy anything direct from a sales rep. Like always take a step back and do some research and go through it. Don't buy on the spot that. How are you careful with this? And again, is it just the training, retraining? How are you able to educate yourself? Is it when you hear something, you deep dive, or what's your strategy for success there to ensure, again, that you're not following trends, but you're also not missing out on what the industry has to offer?
Right. And that's the fine line. So I'll give you an example of myself and my dermatologist who works in my office, because I do a lot of clinical trials in my office. So I'm actually a lot of times familiar with the new, I don't do devices, but the new botulinum toxins, the new fillers, the new whatever is used to help people look like younger. A lot of times I'm very familiar with it. I've worked with it for the last 5-6 years in clinical trials. So and I sort of know from there what's useful and what's not useful. So that for me, the clinical trials is a way, but not every physician has that opportunity like I had. And so I'll use the other dermatologist in my office, who's the laser trained fellow, who constantly updates her laser training. She wanted to get an upgraded device. It was a microneedling radio frequency device a year or two ago. She didn't go to a salesman. She must have talked to her fellow laser trained board certified dermatologist for about 4 or 5 months. What do you think? Well, what's the data? She reviewed all the data out there for all the different devices. She did not talk to a salesman until she actually purchased the device.
Right.
She got lots of opinions, and it took her 4 or 5 months. She didn't jump into anything. She made it, and she's been very successful with this device, and that made her a better practitioner with this device, because she really knows it back and forth by she did all the research before she purchased it. I think that's the way to do things.
I like that. Yeah, and I should clarify, he didn't say don't buy direct. He said just kick them out of your office. Don't get sold to, right? Like let yourself, again, take the information if you need to, but let yourself do that research, take that step back, because it's just too easy to get swept up in that kind of stuff, right?
100% agree.
See their numbers of, here's your projections when, and then you go, I'd be crazy not to, right? And it's so you got to be very careful with that. So that's excellent. As we kind of close off here, Dr. Green, what I'd love to do is just sort of, I know it's a little bit asking out of the box, but I know there's going to be people that would love to connect with you on this, because this is a topic that I think, again, they want to make sure they're doing it the right way. They're proud of what they're doing. I think they would love to emulate your journey in this and how you're doing so successful with it. How can people get in contact with you? And do you have a final sort of closing note here for our audience, for all of our practice owners that are listening, for kind of something to take away as a last piece of advice?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I'll just sort of summarize what we said. First of all, in terms of getting hold of me, I'm available on Instagram, dr.lawrencegreen. Same thing on Facebook, same thing on TikTok. People are welcome to email me. And I think what business owners of aesthetics want to do is showcase their credentials. Most important thing, showcase your qualifications, showcase your education, showcase your training. And then in order to gain regulations, work together. Be unified. If you don't know how to do it, people are welcome to contact me, and I can try and put them in touch with someone in their state, work with you. But again, go to your state medical society. Go to your national organization who can put you in touch with someone on a state or local level, because it has to be done state by state. But all these organizations are here for us. We pay, as a member of the American Society of Dermatologic Surgery and the American Academy of Dermatology, I'm paying dues. Well, my dues should go to help make sure the people know that I'm qualified to do what I'm doing, and is it the best way to do it, the best person to do it for them. And they're happy to help. That's what they want to do. They help us advocate. So work together. We're all in this together. Let's make it a safe world for our patients, where nothing like what happened with the CDC and botulinum poisoning ever happens again.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Dr. Larry Green, for joining us today and talking about how expertise matters and how to navigate these difficult waters and be, again, like you said, be proud of what you do, put it on display, showcase your credentials, keep fighting the good fight, keep doing the great things out there. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to enlighten our audience today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. And I also want to take a moment to thank our listeners. As always, we appreciate each and every one of you. We can't do what we do without you. So if you like our podcast, kindly share it with your friends and on social media. And don't forget to write a review for us wherever you listen, iTunes, Google Play. And it's your thoughts that will help other doctors and other practice owners find us and bring more amazing guests to you like Dr. Green. So until we meet again, I wish you all an amazing week ahead. Thanks, everybody, and take care.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Business of Aesthetic podcast series, brought to you by our gold sponsors, Equa Marketing. Would you like to join our growing group of aesthetic industry experts and get featured on the Business of Aesthetics podcast? Or do you know someone who would love to share their strategies for growth in the aesthetic business, providing quality patient care or their clinical expertise? Head over to www.businessofesthetics.org/podcast show and apply to be featured as a guest on the show. Remember to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, or wherever you listen. If you would like to engage with today's speakers or any of our past speakers, join our Facebook group or LinkedIn group by searching for Business of Aesthetics. Thank you and have a great day.